Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne. And today we're going to talk about the different studies that have been done on body count, pair bonding. I've mentioned these in some of the other videos I've done with Jen and Gracie and Chunky and some of the other girls in the past. Whenever we talk about body count, in other words, how many sexual partners somebody's had, the correlation between the more you've had, the less likely you are to either be faithful or stick it out in a marriage or long term relationship. And so we actually pulled up some of the different studies that have been done on it, talking about premarital sex, how many partners they've had before getting married, and what the trends are based on body count and their ability to go the distance, if you will. So, Jen, what do you got?
The first article is from Institute for Family Studies, and it's called "Counterintuitive Trends and the Link Between Premarital Sex and Marital Stability" by Nicholas Wolfinger. The article starts off saying American sexual behavior is much different than it used to be. Today, most Americans think premarital sex is okay and will have three or more sexual partners before marrying. What, if anything, does premarital sex have to do with marital stability? So they looked at this study from the National Survey of Family Growth. It says the National Survey of Family Growth collected in 2002, also 2006 to 2010, and then again 2011 through 2013 for marrying for women marrying since the start of the new millennium. Women with 10 or more partners were the most likely to divorce, but this only became true in recent years. Women with 3 to 9 partners were less likely to divorce than women with 2 partners, and women with 0 to 1 partners were the least likely to divorce.
So back up a little bit. So the one where it says women with 3 to 9 partners were less likely to divorce than women with 2 partners. So in other words, if women only had 2 previous people they slept with, they were more likely to get divorced than somebody that had almost 9.
Surprising. It's just
Huh.
like a weird variable, a weird data point.
There's the old saying. It says 1 is no choice, 2 is a dilemma, 3 is a choice. And looking at that stat, it basically backs it up. So in other words, if they were limited to 2, they were more likely to not be satisfied, or maybe they settled. Because a lot of women
True.
marry guys that they're not in love with, and the dude has no idea. I wrote about that in 3% Man, a experience I had. I was on a cruise and I met this woman. She was married to a very successful doctor. And I think she said she was with him 7, 8 years before she said she actually finally fell in love with the dude. And he had no idea.
Mm.
They later, well, I think about 15, 20 years later, got divorced. Didn't make it long term, but the guy is another dude. He had no clue. He married a woman, wasn't even in love with him. So who knows what happened? Why they
Yeah.
split up?
So they posted this actual chart that shows the yellow line is the 2000s, the pink line is the 1990s, and the blue line is the 1980s. So on the left side of the chart, you see the least amount of partners, and it goes all the way up to 10 plus. You can tell that in the 2000s, it definitely increases when you get to 10 plus partners more dramatically than it did in past decades. But there you do see that dip in the middle region, like you were just
So in the
discussing.
1980s, it didn't seem to matter if you had more.
Yeah, they said this is a more
Actually, the more
recent,
you had, the less likely you were to get divorced.
it's a more recent trend. And, I would attribute it to church not being so significant in people's lives as it used to be in past decades. The moral the moral fabric of our nation kind of breaking down over time. I don't know. What would you attribute
Well,
it
you have a
to?
lot of immigration of people that don't share the same values as well, and plus you got politics tends to, as they say, is downstream from culture. I don't remember who said that, but if you just look at the culture and what's represented in movies, it ultimately eventually becomes mainstream in society. And so you could look at that and say, I mean, if at the end of the day, if it were true that people with more partners were supposed to to get divorced. I mean, obviously for the 1980s, that was not true from the data.
Not the case at
And
all.
so at the end of the day, what has changed in the culture? Divorce being easier potentially, or there being less of a stigma of getting divorced. But then again, people that, so that means these were people that got married in the 1980s. That's the blue line. And the red one is people that got married in the 1990s, and the yellow's from the 2000s.
Yeah.
This is
Or got divorced then.
And this was the Institute for Family Studies did this.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So the next article on this topic is from the PS I Love You website. It's called "What Happens to Your Brain After Having Too Much Casual Sex" by Tracy Luke. This article states, biological anthropologist Dr. Helen Fisher suggests not to have sex with someone unless you're prepared to fall in love with them. Helen Fisher is the scientific advisor for Match.com. And she's done a lot of TED Talks on human behavior and sex bonding and that sort of thing. She's a really interesting lady. The article continues. In her work, outlined in the video Casual Sex Doesn't Exist, she speaks of how humans have evolved 3 brain systems when it comes to finding and, most importantly, keeping a partner. The 3 brain systems are the sex drive, craving sexual gratification; romantic love, elation, giddiness, euphoria, and craving of passionate, obsessive love; attachment, feelings of calm and security with a long-term partner. It is possible to be in love with someone before sex, or the opposite occurs where you can catch feelings after doing the deed. There is no control over which brain regions would light up, leading to romantic love or attachment. Any one of these systems could fire up, and in any combination or all 3 at once. Hormones released during orgasm, such as oxytocin and dopamine, also primes us for bonding with our partners. Sex is more than a physical act. So basically saying that casual sex is going to light our brains up in bonding. And it's not so casual, right? Is what she's saying.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's always, DNA gets exchanged, and there's energy exchange, and it's each person you're with. It's like you retain energetically something from that interaction.
Yeah, it's more than just a workout.
Yeah, and plus their traumas as well, and the energy of the people that they've been with as well.
Right.
So it's like a big DNA soup, big melting pot, big biological melting pot.
The article continues. Research from the Medical Institute for Sexual Health goes on to illustrate the importance of oxytocin when it comes to bonding. Casual sex leads to a decrease in this neurochemical production and interferes with what is called pair bonding. Repeated sexual encounters with multiple partners rewires the brain. The study states, quote, when an individual chooses to engage in casual sex, breaking bond after bond with each new sexual partner, the brain forms a new synaptic map of one-night stands. This pattern becomes the new normal for the individual. When and if the individual later desires to find a more permanent partner, the brain mapping will have to be overcome, making a permanent bond more difficult to achieve. The article goes on to say,
one of the things I would say is that kind of behavior, just having one night stand after another, never seeing or speaking to that person again, typically people that are doing that they don't feel anything. And for a lot of guys that do that, especially the pickup guys that are trying to they want to get to 100 body count or 200 or whatever it is, to them it's the thrill of the chase, and it's like each hookup is another notch towards their goal or their objective. And so those type of people tend to treat other human beings like disposable commodities. And obviously the way I look at things is, if I'm going to sleep with a girl, it's somebody I feel something for. Mm-hmm. And even when I was younger, even though I had my share of screwing around and doing stupid shit and unprotected sex and all that stuff, you always, to me, it kind of felt like glorified masturbation when you're having sex with a chick that you're never going to see again, because you don't feel anything for them. And it leaves you feeling empty inside. And so for me, Well, empty inside, but also
Physically drained.
the post-nut clarity.
But
But
this,
when you care about somebody and you continue to want to see them off and on throughout, like, because I have old girlfriends from the past I still see from time to time and probably will be that way for the rest of my life. But, somebody that's out just having lots of unattached sex to people they never see again, they're like that with everybody
they've
in their
probably
life.
already destroyed the synapses in their
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah.
That's why they can do it so
And they're not
easily.
really seeking out something like that.
Right.
But, if you've got somebody that has been kind of a serial monogamist off and on throughout their life, you do, even 2 to 3 year relationships, you do a couple, 2, 3 of those a decade, and over the decades, that adds up to a lot of different people.
Right.
But different strokes for different folks. Not everybody's meant to be together forever. And the numbers back that up. When you look at the divorce rate, it ain't working for most people trying to fit in the one box, the one perfect partner. And if you don't do that, there's something wrong with you.
Right.
It's like some people are just not meant to be that way.
It
And they're
works
happy
it
with
works
that.
in strict cultures or strict religions, I think, but we're such a free country at this point. We are very liberated that being put in a box like that doesn't seem to be working out for a lot of people in my
Well, it's not
eyes.
working out for most people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those are the numbers. So, it's like you can't live your life according to other people's expectations. And that's why I'm all about just, you got to be who you are. If you're Christian and you want a low body count girl or a virgin or whatever, and no sex until marriage, is like, whatever. If you're Muslim and you want to have multiple wives, whatever. If you're a regular dude in the West, you want to live with multiple girlfriends and have kids with them, whatever. If you're gay, whatever. If you're lesbian, whatever. Whatever floats your boat. If you want to just live with your girlfriend and have kids and raise a family, you can do that too. As long as you're happy. That's what I'm all about, is helping people get what they want, be self-reliant. Because, if you have 10 people living on your street, you got 10 different ways that people are living, and everybody has their own perspective and their own needs, wants, and desires.
Yeah.
And, nobody should feel like they have to be shamed or walk around and pretend to be a certain way. I mean, look at all the people in our lifetime who are all Mr. Family Man, married, Mr. I'm man or person of God. And then come to find out they're whoring around just like anybody else, and total hypocrites on it.
Like the pastor of the churches, the pastors, like
Yeah,
we were talking about
exactly.
last night. Yeah.
Remember Jimmy Swaggart? Remember him? My sin. Yeah, he looked really remorseful.
Yeah.
He was just mad he got caught.
Facts. And then the last part of this just says, the article goes on to say, in one study, those who had more sex without strings attached were found to be on average less satisfied with their love lives compared to young adults who had sex frequently in a committed romantic relationship.
Yeah, because again, it's like I can't remember. I think it was Donnie Epstein I heard this from first. He said, you only share your body with somebody after you first shared your soul. That has more meaning. Sex is great, but when it's with somebody you care about and you love their personality and their soul and the sound of their voice, and you love being around them, you love waking up next to them, that's different than just hooking up, blowing a wad, and then, hey,
Yeah.
wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
Because the
The Stone said.
the casual sex is just physical attraction.
Yeah.
But then if you know the person, you've got the emotional stuff, the intellectual stuff, you're doing things together. It's so much more. It's multiple forms.
Yeah, you want to have somebody that you want to be around, that you want to listen to and hang out with and do fun things with, not somebody as soon as you're done hooking up, you can't wait for them to leave.
Yeah, then you feel empty.
Yeah. It's like hanging out with people that you don't like, or having friends that you don't like and who don't like you, but you hang out because you got nobody else to be friends with. It's like, that's not fulfilling either.
True. It's a good metaphor.
In order to have a good life, you got to have meaningful relationships. It means something to you and means something to them.
Yeah.
So personally, I don't agree with that study. Those who had more sex without strings attached were found to be on average less satisfied with their love lives compared to young adults who had sex frequently in a committed romantic relationship. I did have sex without strings attached, and it was much better than my committed relationship that I had. And with the sex without strings attached, this person and I did have a connection where we were friends and we understood each other's path.
Friends with benefits.
Friends with benefits and no strings attached. Like he would come over, we had like game nights and we like made food, but it was just like friends and then with benefits and we had sex. But we enjoyed each other's company.
You filled each other's needs.
Yes.
And your needs probably matched.
Yeah, that was no strings
Exactly.
attached because you actually liked hanging out. It was like a casual affair for a period of time.
But in the beginning, it was more, we didn't try to do the whole...
It wasn't a dude where you hooked up once and never saw him again, never spoke to him again.
That I did once, the one night stand, but I never liked that.
Yeah.
That is horrible.
There you go.
That was horrible.
There's the story.
But no, but like the streets...
There it is.
But see, it's the thing
Wait,
was...
you got to ask him the right questions.
True, but my thing with the one night stand
like,
was the guy wanted to do more with me.
She was contradicting herself.
But the guy wanted to do more with me, and I didn't want that.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different
that
labels
was the only
for
thing that I didn't
relationships
like
these days.
That's the only thing. I don't mind doing a one night stand. I have no problem doing it. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But
that one wasn't fun.
It wasn't fun because he wanted to actually like have a conversation and like get to know me, and I did not like that.
Oh yeah,
that was the part that I didn't like. So if I ever had to do it again, I'm afraid that someone wants to do more with me.
Well,
and
he
I
had
don't want
different
that.
needs than you had.
But
he
we
wanted the quality time, and he wanted admiration or attention or validation.
I didn't want that.
Did you ever have a one night stand with somebody that you never saw or spoke to again?
Never
and
again.
You were like, that was awesome?
That was awesome. I cut it there. He keeps like messaging me and I don't.
But no, I'm
answer
talking about one where it was a one night stand where you walked away and he walked away and you never spoke again. There was no.
Oh no. It was more like the guy would like
those ones
ask
are
for more
interesting.
stuff.
Yeah, those are no
You
strings
just don't even know
attached
their
because
name,
you
you're like,
literally
I
never
don't
see
like
each other
that.
again.
That makes me just feel dirty. Like I just want to
I've
shower.
had that experience walking around and out on the street or in a grocery store, and I see a chick and I'm like, I know her from somewhere, and then it doesn't hit me until like an hour later that we hooked up like 10, 15 years later. I was like, couldn't even tell you her name, or even remember exactly what year that was. But she looked at me the same way. It was like, do I know you?
Wow, you didn't even remember the girls you slept with?
Hey, it happens. You get a little older. It's like people change. You don't realize that because you're young.
Yeah.
You're only 22. Yeah. But 10 years from now, everybody you went to high school with, most of them, they're going to look different. They're going to be overweight. Dudes lost their hair. And then you get 20, 30 years down the road, it's like people that you knew and worked with, they look completely different. And they'll come up to you and and say, hey, how you been? And you're like, you won't recognize who the fuck they are because they literally look different.
Even if you had sex together.
Yep.